All right, welcome back to First Team Fantasy. This is going to be the final Sunday afternoon recap game, which was the Packers traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos in what was kind of an ugly game. The Broncos did win it 19-17. On the Packers side of the ball, Jordan Love had that really hot start to the season, and he has not completely replicated it since then. He finished this game 21 of 31, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, 3 carries for 21 yards, 16.3 fantasy points. If you were a fantasy owner like me that had someone like Joe Burrow on bye, I gave the nod to Jordan Love, and it was ugly for a while, and then he kind of saved it second half, which has been the case a lot of the times for Jordan Love. But yeah, finishing 16.3 fantasy points, it's not terrible. It's not going to absolutely burn you for someone that you have to plug in for a week. I am
That was
kind
better
of,
than Stafford and Geno.
yeah, I'm worried about looking at Jordan Love as a week-to-week starter, but as a plug-in play, I'm not completely against it. Uh, Aaron Jones returned this game and had a decent capacity. He rushed 8 times for 35 yards, 3 catches for 22 yards on 5 targets, 8.7 fantasy points, and only 36% of snaps. That's the silver lining I'm kind of looking at was, we saw him kind of re-injure it or at least not play very much previously. We're seeing how, or I guess by next week we'll see how healthy he is, but 8.7 fantasy points and 36% of snaps is very efficient. But if you started him, obviously you're not too happy with him only playing 36% of snaps. By next week, we hope to see that at least around that 50 to 55 range. But
It's just a concern. It's concerning coming off the bye because
he had all that time.
the week going into the bye, he didn't play that much, and then they had the bye. They come off the bye, and he's not playing that much. So it's like I don't know how healthy he really is,
Mm-hmm.
and it is concerning because there's no like there's no transparency on this.
Yeah.
We have no idea from a week to week basis. All we see is a questionable tag every single week, but it's it's ridiculous.
Yeah. We're gonna have to see. The healthy running back in that backfield has been AJ Dillon. He had 15 carries for 61 yards, 2 catches on 2 targets, 34 yards, 11.5 fantasy points, played 56% of the snaps. You will never hear me say that AJ Dillon is good. He has burned me too many times for me to say that. He had a solid week against the Raiders. That makes sense. The Broncos also a piss poor defense. He had another decent week. That makes sense to me. As it goes on, and even if Aaron Jones is playing 35-40% of snaps, I don't love the AJ Dillon start at this point. He's obviously worth rostering because of the uncertainty behind Aaron Jones. But as we get closer to next Sunday, they play the Vikings. We'll have to monitor it. We'll see what the Packers say about Aaron Jones, if they even say anything at all on update on how healthy he is. So we'll have a better idea going forward. Someone to be very concerned about is Christian Watson. He had 3 catches for 27 yards on 5 targets, 5.7 fantasy points. He played 88% of snaps, but hurt his right knee on the final drive. And that is the same knee that he had surgery on last June. The Packers have not released anything further saying the extent or anything like that. Hopefully, it was a minor injury, but it's very scary being on, a previously surgically repaired knee. So that's something we'll have to wait and see on. If you have Christian Watson, that is absolutely devastating. If you do not have Christian Watson and you have a guy like Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed, that could possibly, depending on the severity of the injury, skyrocket their value once again. Romeo Doubs had 2 catches for 30 yards on 5 targets, caught a touchdown, 11 fantasy points, 81% of snaps. Jaden Reed, 3 catches, 21 yards, 4 targets, 48% of snaps, caught a touchdown that deflected off Romeo Doubs.
That was dope.
Had Romeo Doubs caught it, you'd be looking at, an 18-point fantasy week, but instead it was Jaden Reed. He caught that touchdown, finished 11.1 fantasy points. I don't think too many people were starting Jaden Reed because of Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs being there. But again, if Christian Watson does miss time, we've seen Jaden Reed be a red zone target, and you can expect not only his targets, but catches, yards, touchdown chances. His snap percentage will go back up above 50%. So, again, something we'll have to see. Packers haven't said anything about Christian Watson. We'll keep you updated as we find out. Something that was sad to see, Luke Musgrave, 4 catches, 30 yards on 5 targets, 7 points in 67% of snaps. For a tight end, 7 points isn't horrible. He didn't
He got murdered
absolutely.
by Kareem Jackson, didn't he?
He did, and that's what I was going to touch on. Kareem Jackson has multiple times this season. He got suspended 4 games.
Not even this season, his whole career.
Yeah, he's been a dirty player. They said he's already had over $100,000 in fines before this fine. So this season alone. Yeah, he was suspended 4 games. Everyone thought it was going to be a head injury. He actually left the game with an ankle injury that the Packers have not updated on that one yet as well. So again, something we'll have to wait and see and obviously provide updates on. But yeah, it sucks to see. It was just a dirty hit. Did you have anything else for the Packers?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't given us any info, so it's hard to really provide insight for the future on him. For the Broncos side of the ball, there were a couple highlights here. Russ, 20 of 29, 194 yards, a touchdown, 1 rush for 21 yards, 13.8 fantasy points. Kind of an ugly week for Russ. He's had a couple good weeks. He plays the Chiefs again next week, and we saw what he did against the Chiefs before. And the Chiefs are looking hot right now. They're kind of finding a groove. So I'm not even
getting Frank Clark back.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about Russ at all this coming week. Someone who, had his best week of the season was Javonte Williams. 15 carries, 82 yards, 3 catches for 14 yards on 4 targets, 12.6 fantasy points.
Had a touchdown called back.
Yeah. Played 53% of snaps, which was his highest snap percentage of the season, his highest rush attempts of the season, and his highest rushing yards. A good sign for Javonte, and with him getting ramped up a little bit more, we saw Pirine only play 25% of snaps, and Jaleel McLaughlin play 17% of snaps. Pirine still managed 7.1 fantasy points, McLaughlin 5.6. I think Pirine... depends how deep your league is. If Javonte does get re-injured, if you have Javonte, he's maybe worth it for a handcuff. But as Javonte hopefully gets more healthy, we're going to see that kind of separation a little bit more. I just don't know. And McLaughlin showed some really good flashes, but it doesn't seem like if Javonte and Pirine are healthy, he's going to be involved very heavily.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, and then the receiving room, we really have 2 guys that we look at. One being Courtland Sutton, who had a solid day. 6 catches for 76 yards on 6 targets, a touchdown, 19.6 fantasy points. And then Jerry Jeudy. Both these guys caught every single ball thrown their way. Jerry Jeudy had 5 targets, caught all 5 for 64 yards, 11.4 fantasy points. If you started either of them, they did what you... Honestly, if you have realistic expectations, they did exactly what you hoped they would do. That's a solid week for both of them. They both got over 10 points. Marvin Mims is just not viable. Adam Troutman is Adam Troutman. And I mean, that's all you're going to get from the Broncos. Fantasy-wise, from, Javonte, Sutton, and Jeudy, they actually had pretty good weeks.
Yeah, I genuinely don't have anything to add to this game.
I mean, it was an ugly game. That's all it is. But yeah, that'll wrap it up for our Sunday afternoon slate. We have the Sunday night game and then also the Monday night game coming up. So stay tuned for that. And the waivers, yes. Stay tuned for that. Any questions, comments, advice you guys may have or need, feel free to drop in the comments. We appreciate the support like always. Come back for the Sunday night game and take more reps with the first team.